to church this morning. Wow. Sit down. Thanks. Welcome to church. Wow. If you are joining us from one of our locations, from one of our fire starters or online, in the room, wherever you are, welcome to church. You are joining us in part 3 of I Love My Church series, and it has been fire. I have loved it so much. My name is Naomi. And we've been part of Freedom Church. We've been friends with Freedom Church for a long time, but we actually physically moved so that we could be part of the Hereford location about 13 years ago. And I love my church. I love the church. I love the brides. I love the different expressions, but I love my church. I love my church. I love what it's done in me. We saw a testimony earlier. This house is full of so many testimonies. I'm full of so many testimonies of what God has done through the church. So, I love my church. It's an absolute privilege to talk to you this morning about something I really am very passionate about within the church as well. But I'm going to start with a story because I'm learning from those who go before me. So it's my turn. So it's not that embarrassing, don't worry. Roll back the clock about 15 years. So this is pre-Freedom Church, and this is pre-children as well. So it's just Chris and I, and we take a holiday onto mainland Europe, which, for those of you know, there's the countries that can be quite close together. It's quite easy to access different countries in one go. So we'd planned a camping trip. And we were camping in, we're living it large. We planned this camping trip, and we were in the foothills of the mountains in Switzerland. And it was beautiful. It was really beautiful. It was beautifully sunny. But our next location, our next destination was northern Italy. Now, if any of you know anything about European geography, there's a huge mountain range between Switzerland and Italy. Well, that's okay, because there's 3 ways to get around mountains. You can go around the mountain, through the mountain, or over the mountain. So there's some stories, children's stories about this, aren't there? So anyway, we decided, because this was live full, die empty days, we thought we'd ask. We'd ask what the best way, we wouldn't just go, we would ask. So we asked people who lived and worked locally what the best way to get to the other side was going to be. And they said the tunnel. Take the tunnel. 100%. You don't know what the weather's going to do this time of year. Take the tunnel. So that's fair enough, easy enough. How do we get to the tunnel? Oh, you just take the road and you'll see the sign. That's pretty simple. And I think you can probably tell where this is going. So we merrily packed up our car. And, Chris and I are not like avid mountain climbers or anything like this. We are in our flip-flops and shorts, and we throw our kit in the car, and we set off, and we're enjoying the scenery, we're driving along, I'm probably talking a bit too much, and so, the road starts to incline, and that's fine, because we're like, well, it's a mountain range, it's gonna go uphill somewhat, anyway, so keep going, and, then it starts snowing. And there's a little bit of me, I'm not going to admit it, because it's obviously, I'm not looking out, I'm the passenger, I'm not looking for the sign enough. And so, it becomes really clear we've missed the sign. So we decided to carry on. Obviously, that DNA was in us already. It was in us. So we noticed there are less cars coming the opposite direction. No local cars coming the opposite direction. But then we turned a corner, and there was a snowplow coming the other direction towards us. So, at this point, this maybe not have been the right, but we didn't turn around because we're also quite determined. And so we carry on, and it got pretty scary, I'm not going to lie. And there was one point where there was this kind of a mini cut through in the mountain. And all we could see the other side was the grey of blizzard, the other side. And you're like, flip-flops and shorts, the temperature's going down in the car. Like, it's fine, darling, we'll just keep going. And we did make it, obviously. Yay, we made it. So good. But God brought this story to mind when I was preparing for this message, because I feel that's a bit of a description of life. I think as we grow up and as we navigate different things, it would be really, how many times, especially if you're a parent, have you thought, oh, I wish there was an instruction manual? Right? I wish this thing came with instructions, but a map, a detailed map. Better still, someone to show us the way, right? Someone to show, if we'd known what the sign was meant to look like, or if someone had been in the car who'd been that way before, it's that way, rather than just, oh, yeah, it's over there. Great, we missed it. And I think that is a picture of life, whether it's when we're growing up, having children, taking a driving test, anything it can be. There are moments in life we find ourselves on mountains where we just need someone to show us the way. The tunnel was there. The tunnel didn't go anywhere. We missed it because we didn't know what we were looking for. And imagine now, you are much younger than you are now, and you are a child or young person growing up today. The youth, the next generation are facing a world that is faster than ever, with more information than ever, with more chaos, more noise, more confusion, more questions, and less clarity, more ideas and ideals, but less people to show them the way, because we find ourselves in a time where even the thought of there being one truth is being eroded. So young people are finding themselves with more noise, with more blizzards, with more distractions and more confusion. There is more childhood depression. There are more mental health issues that our young people are facing than ever before. And I believe that's because of the noise that we are growing up with in this next generation. And I believe there are tunnels through the mountains they face, but young people are missing them because they don't have someone to show them the way. Pathways are being blurred, and the tunnels that are already provided are being missed. Callings on their lives are being missed because they need someone to show them a way. If you haven't guessed what today I'm talking about is, we are talking about raising the next. Come on. And so this is not just for families. This is not just for parents. If you are currently discounting yourself, lean back in, because I actually believe that one of the reasons you exist, not just why you're here, why you exist on this planet, why God created you, was to raise the next. And we're going to jump straight into the beginning, right back in Genesis 1. We see this description of creation, and God creates plants, and they make seeds, and they reproduce themselves. Animals reproduce themselves. We see this picture of reproduction, and then God makes man. He makes Adam and Eve, and we read in 1 Genesis, here it is, 1 Genesis 1, verse 28. God had made all of this creation and everything, and he said, then God blessed them, mankind. He blessed them and said, be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and govern it. Reign over the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, and the animals that scurry along the ground. This isn't just a pretty story. This is God's first instruction to mankind. And he doesn't just say, have loads of babies. I'm not talking to you about having lots of babies. That's not what today is about. Actually, God says, be fruitful and multiply. Seeds and plants reproduced. Animals reproduced. Those things were to keep going. Man's job was to look after what he'd been given and to make more, leave things better. Why? For the next generation. We are called to leave things better, more and better for the next generation. Church, I believe we are called and designed to give our first and best to raise the next. And just as we may have been in situations, or we may feel today, actually, I really wish somebody would show me the way. Equally, the next generation that is following us needs us to show them the way. Not just point us over there. You'll find it. You feel it. You'll find it in the... Oh, they can go over the mountain because they'll still get there. Yeah, we still got there, but we wasted so much time. We wasted time, and it was dangerous. We could maybe not. If that snowplow had been slightly on the other side of the road, we may not have made it, but they need us to show them the way. And throughout the Bible, there are loads of stories of raising the next. We've got Moses raising Joshua. We've got all the prophets screaming at God's people, go this way. Really, this is what's in this way. We see it throughout the Bible, but there is an extravagant story that I love that we're going to jump into because I think it describes God's heart so very beautifully. And that's the story of David and Solomon and his son Solomon. So we're going to read a chunk of 1 Chronicles verse 22 because I love the descriptions and pulling out some of the truths that we see in here. So King David he is still worldwide known as incredible king. He is famous, not just in Christians, but in history. He is known as a good, great king. And he's dedicated his whole life to serving God. He has fought battles. He has pursued the call of God on his life. He is famous and he is a good king. In fact, he's described as a man after God's heart. He's great and famous and he has a dream. He is going to build a beautiful, magnificent, wonderful temple to worship the God he's devoted his life to. And God says, no, that's not your job. I haven't called you to do that. It's for your son to do. And rather than feeling sorry for himself and I wanted my name on the top of the temple. I wanted it to be added to the list of, and he also did. No, because up until this point, David recognized God's presence was dwelling in tents and he wanted something magnificent to glorify God. It was good intentions, it was good focus, but it was Solomon's call, not his. And so it reads, David said, my son Solomon is young and inexperienced. He recognized it, yeah? As, parents, he recognized the weakness. So he said, young and inexperienced. And since the temple to be built for the Lord must be magnificent structure, famous and glorious throughout the whole world, I will begin making preparations for it. Right now, so David collected vast amounts of building materials before his death. Then David sent for his son Solomon and instructed him how to build a temple for the Lord, the God of Israel. My son, I wanted to build a temple to honor the name of the Lord my God, David told him. But the Lord said to me, you've killed too many people in battles, got too much blood on your hands. It's not your call. And since you shed so much blood in my sight, you won't be the one to build a temple in my name. It's a bit harsh, but it's God. And then it says, but you will have a son who will be a man of peace, and I will give him peace with his enemies in surrounding lands. His name will be Solomon, and I will give him peace and quiet to Israel during his reign. He is the one who will build a temple to honor my name. He will be my son. I will be his father. I will secure the throne of his kingdom over Israel forever. And then he blesses his son. Now, my son, may the Lord be with you and give you success as you follow his directions in building the temple of the Lord your God. And may the Lord give you wisdom and understanding. And may you obey the law of the Lord your God and rule as you rule over Israel. For you will be successful if you carefully obey the decrees and regulations that the Lord has given you through Moses. Be strong and courageous. Don't be afraid. Don't lose heart. And I read all of that because what he did was rather than feeling sorry for himself, I really wanted to build it. I've got the plans. Mate, I drew up the plans, I know. No, and he's like, well, my son doesn't know what he's doing. No, he set about dedicating the rest of his life. And later on in the chapter, we see he gathered 4,000 tons of gold, 40,000 tons of silver, and they couldn't even weigh the bronze. And he didn't just stop there. He gave of his wealth, he gave of the nation's wealth, and then he told all of his friends they had to do the same. And then he found all the best skilled craftspeople in the nation and told them what they needed to do. He set everything in place for Solomon to succeed at his call. He set up provision, instructions, and then he points him back to God and says, if you follow this path, you will succeed. And he blessed him. David could have said, well, he's going to inherit it when I die. Isn't he? He's going to be the next king, so just leave him to it. But he recognized, no, he's inexperienced. He doesn't know the way. He doesn't know what he's doing. And he pointed him continually back to God, who was going to empower him to do it. Now, that is an extravagant story. It's beautiful. But maybe we're not all called to be Davidic in our provision for the next generation. And I found myself as a 9-year-old facing a mountain as well. It's not as extreme as this, but I wanted to share this story as well as a more micro example. I'm in grade 4. My 9-year-old self faced a mountain, and it was in the form of a spelling book. Anybody remember the spelling books, the little skinny? For those in the UK, we had these little thin, they still have them. One of my daughters brought one home the other day, and I literally felt myself go, And in that spelling book, you have the 10 spellings for the week, and you have to memorize them because you're going to be tested. And that moment of the test would come, bring out your spelling books and your pencil. And for me, my 9-year-old self, it took everything I could to stop myself crying. I could feel the tears burning in the back of my eyes because I knew I was about to fail. Because my year 3 teacher had told me I was a failure. She had thrown work back in my face and said, your sisters can do better. She had compared me and she'd spoken failure. And honestly, I couldn't spell. I was actually facing a learning difficulty that I was not aware of. But my grade 4 teacher said something to my parents, and she said, Naomi can do anything if she sets her mind to it. I know, she's an incredible teacher. I still remember her name. Because she spoke life to this mountain that I was facing. She spoke life where others had spoken confusion, and I got frustrated. I needed someone to show me the way, but she didn't just say that. She sat with me, and she showed me how to do it. She showed me the way through the mountain. And so whether it's like an extreme story or a simple story, have you ever found yourself in a situation where you just needed someone to see you, to show you the way? Did you ever have like a neighbor that snuck you snacks? Or there was a grown-up in your life that you just knew loved you? You knew that spending time with that person was going to be okay. Did you ever have someone who helped you learn something, a brother-in-law who helped you learn how to drive so you didn't park the car or something, so you didn't fail your test again? Did you have those people in your life? Or maybe you didn't. Maybe there were situations, spelling test moments or others, where you found yourself desperately needing someone to show you the way, to see you. And if that was you, if you found yourself lost and needing that person didn't come, I'm sorry. I am so sorry that that's not your experience, because I truly believe that God's best plan was that the one generation would make the way for the next, and there would be someone to show you the way. So whether you recognize it from your own experience of having that person or from the lack of, all of us are called to make the way for the next generation, to clear the way for the next generation, to raise the next. Because here's the truth. God's already made the way. God has already made tunnels through the mountains that that we face, but our next generation as well. He's made a way, he's made a tunnel through the mountain of fear, through the mountain of depression, through the mountain of grief, through the mountain of questions. God has made a way already. And we get to show them the way. And it's simple. You might not be a Davidic king. You might not even be a teacher. But there was a sociology study of children who've experienced trauma that recognized a child spending as little as 1 hour once a week for one term or one semester can make the complete difference whether a child makes it through or whether they struggle and get stuck on their mountain. That's a secular theory, and they recognize the difference that 1 hour, once a week, for a short amount of time, can make all the difference in a child's life. Now, that's achievable, right? That we can do, because if you are in a location where you have kids or zeal, our volunteers are spending at least 2 hours, more if I keep talking, they spend at least 2 hours with our children and our young people. And they don't just sit and, play games. They don't just be nice and encourage, although that works. But they also teach them about a Jesus who loves them, who hears them, who speaks to them, has a plan for them, and will never, ever leave them. You add that together, and that is pointing people in the right direction, showing them the way through every single mountain they will ever, ever face. And church, I hope you're catching. I am so passionate about this because this saves lives. Physically, spiritually, emotionally, this is what we are called and designed to do. And I hope you do realize it is so important, but it's also really, really doable. It's really doable. And you might be asking, saying, I don't know how. I'm no good with kids. I thought for years I was no good at kids until I wrote my CV and realized I've been working with them for 18 years. And I already had my own. You might think I don't have time or haven't got anything to give. There are three steps that we as a church can take to make this happen, to raise the next. And they are, we need to invest, we need to release, and we need to sacrifice. We need to invest our prayers. We need to pray for our children. We need to pray for the children in our house. We need to pray for our own children, other people's children, the children yet to come, the children yet to be born, the children yet to be adopted in. We need to pray for our children. We need to give our time. We need to invest our time and our skills to clearing the ground. Families, we need to invest in Bibles and resources that our children can read at home. That if there's something they click with, if there's so many resources out there, we need to bring our kids to church. We need to turn up. Put them in that environment. If your children are struggling, or if you're as a parent struggling, come to church, get rooted, and we need to invest. We need to invest our finances as well. And we need to release. And I'm going to throw it out there. We need to teach our kids, get on a kids team, right? Shout out to all of our Kids and Zeal volunteers. You are incredible. And I want to thank every one of you across the world who's ever served one of my children, because you have stood shoulder to shoulder with us as we've parented, and you make the difference. You make the difference. And if you don't know how, again, a parent, if you find yourself struggling, I don't know how to do it, get on a kids team. You will learn. The kids will teach you, and our volunteers will teach you as well. I love the simplicity of telling children about Jesus, because you have to make it simple, and they ask the most direct questions, and you have to answer, and it actually makes you really drill into your own faith as well, which is fantastic. Maybe you are creative and you could write devotionals, really relevant devotionals for our Zeal team. Or maybe, so you can use your creative skills to create resources. I would also say create time at home. If you have children or young people at home, make Jesus part of everyday conversation. Talk about the stories of the miracles he has done, but also the miracles in your own life. There is something so powerful about testimonies. We need to share our testimonies in everyday conversation because they are so faith-stirring. And we also need to another way we need to release our children is through experiences. If you are ever planning a holiday, look and see if you are near a fire starter or another location and take your children to see it. While we were living in East and South Africa, we had people come visit us and bring their children. And it was so enriching because our children got to show their friends what they were doing and what they were part of. But you get to open your children's eyes to what God is doing the world over. Or maybe it's getting involved in one-by-one fundraising with your children. Show them the bigger world. Show them that you can make a difference by running, or you can make a difference by bringing what you've got. Show children how. That's how you release them. And then sacrifice. Church, it is going to take everything we've got to set things up for the next generation. Everything. David gave everything in the last years of his life. He didn't say, tag your rate, you'll get it later. He gave everything he had to set his son up. Because what if he hadn't? What if David hadn't and Solomon had to face the mountain of gathering the resources or knowing what to do or which direction to go? Would he have even done it? It would have taken him a long time, a really long time, and I don't know if he would have done. We don't know that. But our children missing out, looking at these mountains they're facing, thinking, I'm just not going to. No, church, it's going to take everything we've got to set the next generation up for the win. And we've got a vision called Salt Winds. And our vision is to create wholesome content to go out across the airwaves, not just to feed our church, but to feed children and young people. And, over the globe, that's going to take more than us. That's going to take the army of children and young people we already have and the ones that are coming. It's going to take them, and we need to give all that we've got to set them up for the win. So if we're called to give our first and best to raise the next, if we're called to leave things better, because that's what we want, isn't it? We want to leave things better for those who are coming. We don't want those who come to have to face the same challenges that we've got. We want to clear the way for them. So if that's what we were designed for, and if that's our first call to do, we need to ask ourselves, what have I got? What have I got? What have I got to invest? And what will be missing if I don't? If you don't bring that, what's going to be missing? Who is going to be missing? Who's going to be stuck up a mountain needing someone because you were called to show them the way? I love my church because we will give our first and best to raise the next. And church, it starts, I said earlier, God's made a way. Jesus has made a way through every mountain we'd ever face. And maybe I'm talking to people who believe already on screen or in the room. Maybe I'm talking to people who already know, and you can recognize that Jesus has made a way. Or maybe you've never actually come into a relationship with the Jesus who makes a way. Because Jesus stepped out of heaven and he came down and he invested it all. He gave everything to make a way for us to have a relationship with our Father in heaven. He released us. He gave it all so that we could be released into the fullness that he had for us. He sacrificed everything to raise the next. And if you don't know him today, our event leaders where you are will give you an opportunity to pray and to get to know Jesus, the one who makes a way. So I'm going to pray for us. Jesus, I thank you that you have called every single one of us to leave things better than when we came, that you have designed all of us. You have equipped all of us to leave a legacy, to clear a way and to raise the next generation so that they can be all that you've called them to be. So Jesus, I pray that as we've shared this word, God, I pray you would stir in each of us how we can make a difference, who we can reach, who we can lead into a life-changing relationship with you. Amen. Thank you, Jesus. Amen. I'm going to hand it over to every event leader now that they're going to pray with you. And I just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you for listening. And at church, please grab a hold of this. If you have any questions, go find your campus pastor or your location leader and ask what you can do and how you can do this today. Thank you very much. Thank you.